all good before I do start yapping. So just let me make sure that this live stream is working before we do get into our predictions. But dearie me, I'm excited. I'm really excited. If you guys can see me right now, this is going to be a Premier League predictions for 2022-23 season. It's going to be a really exciting season, guys. Obviously, we've seen some massive signings as we normally see. We've seen some big losses for the big clubs as well. But as you guys know, last season was one of the most incredible Premier League seasons that we have seen. But I have seen that we are on, and let's get going, guys. So hey guys, how you going to the Down Big House Sport Premier League predictions time? It is going to be fun here because we're going to go into all 20 teams and giving you our winner, Champions League, Europa League, mid-table, avoid the drop, and relegation. Now, I'm going to have your comments as well there, so I can check in from time to time, see what you guys are thinking, because I do have a very big shout for the relegation that you guys probably aren't expecting, to be honest with you. Obviously, we all know who's going to be up the top end of the table. A lot of those sneaky teams like Arsenal have made some pretty good signings there as well. Chelsea is an interesting one to go over as well. Man United, you might be surprised with where I put them. And yeah, look, I'm really excited to kind of knuckle down and get into this. So I've actually written some stuff down here just so that we've got the bullet points to go through each club, because it's actually been, for the last couple of hours, I've just been sitting down, just been absolutely loving looking through all the transfers that each individual team has made. I've been making some positives and some negatives of all these teams, and hopefully we can do something right here. So, like I said, guys, let's go and hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you're new around here. Actually, let's see what you guys are saying here in the chat already. Let's see what you guys are saying. So everyone, Saturday comes I'm so keen for the season start. Yeah, obviously season starts on Saturday night Saturday morning for us here in Australia at 5 a.m. I'll be streaming Arsenal versus, is it Crystal Palace? I think it is, at Selhurst Park there, which will be a actually interesting game, because I don't think I don't think Crystal Palace are going to be too bad this season. I think that obviously they're always a very solid club, very structurally sound, and Selhurst Park is a very tough place to go to. I'm pretty certain that's the first game of the season. We'll be streaming that one, and Saturday night here in Australia for everyone is when we do get rocking and rolling there with the big games. And I think Liverpool play Fulham in their first game. And obviously, guys, I am doing fantasy this season as well. So if you guys do want to see my fantasy Premier League team that I'm going to be rocking with, do let me know in the chat so that I can put a video out in the coming days before the season does get underway. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. And TJ C Sports says, glory, Man United. Someone says up to Villa. Joseph reacts to Spurs to finish third this year. That's a big spot there. That is a big spot there. But let's get into it here, guys. So if you are watching this after I've already streamed it live, then do know that I'm going to have the timestamps for each individual team here as we do go through them. But alrighty here. So I've done this wrong here. Hold on, let me move this over here. That's my order. I don't know why Brighton was down there, but that is my order. So first off here, guys, we do have Brighton and Hove Albion. Now, this team is a very solid team for me. They've always been, ever since coming up, they've actually been really solid defensively. Graham Potter, obviously in charge of Brighton. And look, they're not going to be any world beaters this year, but look, they're very solid defensively. They did lose Basuma, which is a huge loss there. That is a massive, massive loss. But Sasiedo can fill his boots. I really do believe in the midfield. I think that, like I keep going back to the defensive point, they're really structurally sound. They really know how to prevent goals going in the back of the net. And look, they may not be the highest goal-scoring team of the competition. They're not going to be, a Champions League contender, or, even arguably they're not even going to be probably even top 10. They're going to be mid-table, lads. They're going to be mid-table. Let me just see if is it going to let me go there? Is it going to let me move it? Apparently not. It's not letting me move anything here. Oh, okay, cool. Maybe if dearie me, we're all over the shop. So yeah, I'm putting them mid-table. I think that I'm going to put this in order as well, guys, from what I believe. So yeah, I think they're going to be mid-table. I do really like this squad. I do really like what Brighton have done. They've got some nice youngsters. They've got some nice experience there as well. Yeah, it just really comes down to the fact that I believe that they are a very structurally sound squad. So let me see what you guys are saying here in this one. If you have anything to say about Brighton, someone said so keen for Villa this season, haven't lost a game of pre-season, which doesn't mean much, but we've made class signings. Haven't made class signings, but obviously we'll talk about that in a little bit here. So yes, that's what my prediction there for Brighton. I've got them in the mid-table, and we'll see exactly where they do finish once I do go through more of these teams. Now, next up here, we've got a Leicester under Brendan Rodgers. Now, for me, It's a very tough one because Leicester, and obviously 2016, they did the unthinkable. 5,001 underdogs, and they got the win in the end. The finals, the first chance that Tottenham had to win the league in however many years, and they bottled it. Crazy to see that again. But yeah, Leicester obviously since then, I don't think they're the same team. What I've written down here, no major signings. I haven't really seen anything of massive note. They've actually lost a couple of players as well, key figures in regards to their midfield, in regards to their go forward and their creativity as a club. Leicester, look, they've been pretty solid for the last couple of years. Last year, maybe not so much. They did drop off a little bit there, but overall, there is a shout that you could put them quite low because they're a bit of a shambles at the moment. I also think that with Vardy, it's like we all know how quality Vardy has been over the past 6 years, 7 years of being in the Premier League, but is it really going to be able to continue it? He's obviously aging now. He's getting a bit older. They've got a Iheanacho there as well, ex-City young blood that comes through the Leicester team. It's a hard one to kind of predict where Leicester is, but I'm going to make a pretty big call here. I'm going to say they've actually made a bit of a drop-off in comparison to where you would like to be seeing them comparatively to the teams at the top of the table that you'll see in a moment. I think that, I think they're struggling for balance. And I actually am going to put them in a bit of a big call here, and I am going to put them there below Brighton in mid-table. I just really don't believe in them. I think they can still concede goals. I think that they may be able to score some goals here and there, and I think they may still be a decent side. I don't think they're going to be relegated. I've seen a lot of people actually throw them into that relegation area of late. I don't think so. I think they've still got a quality enough amount of players there that can get the job done for them. But yeah, look, I just think that the balance isn't there like it has been in previous years. They have lost players. There's no real signings of note, and they're relying on Vardy and Iheanacho to get the goals in there. And Vardy has done it in the past, but is he going to be able to keep doing it is my biggest question there. So what do you guys think about Leicester? Someone says Jamie Vardy another year older. Absolutely, Jamie Vardy is another year older there, and that's exactly what I'm saying. He's aging, and is he going to be able to have that same pace? Is he going to have the same quality? I believe he still probably has the same quality, but does he get the right ball usage? Is he able to? Is the midfield as quality as it has been in the past? They've lost quite a few players over the years, and you have seen them slowly regress ever since they were at their peak. Obviously, 6 years ago they were peak, but they still kept maintaining for quite a little bit after that. So that's why I've got Leicester down there. Brighton above them is a big call, though. Brighton above them is a huge call. I just think they're very structurally sound this year, Brighton. So I think that I'm happy to put them in there. Sebastian Gummer, he's a member for 8 months. It says, come on to Gunners. Getting around to Gunners. He's an Arsenal fan. He is. We'll get to them soon. Madison is still class. Yes, but I believe that Newcastle are trying to bid for him right now. I think is Madison the one that they've just bid £50 million for? I can't remember. But there is another one from Leicester that I literally just saw beforehand that Newcastle are trying to sign. Because obviously we all know that Newcastle are a very wealthy club now. They can make a lot of transfer signings. And that's an interesting one there to see what transpires at Leicester. Because obviously the transfer window has not closed yet. So there's still plenty of stuff here that can happen. Still plenty of signings and trades that can be made here. That it'll be interesting over the next little bit until we do get to see that transfer window close. And we will live stream our reaction to the transfer window when it is happening, so get excited for that. Next up here, let's move to Leeds United. I've got a donation here, first. Joseph reacts with the $3 donation. So what about a tier for the Conference League? So look, you're going to be able to see where I've got each team in order anyway, right? So you've got the winner Champions League, Europa League in the table. You're going to be able to make your assumption of what the Conference League is based on how I'm going to place them in this order. So obviously winners is only going to be 1, Champions League will only be 3, Europa League will probably chuck in 2 to be fair, and that's how it's going to go. So there's no specific tier for the Conference League, but it's relatively relevant. You're still going to be able to, I guess, read through the lines there when I do put them in order. THC Sports said Glory Man United. Yeah, they're not talking about them yet. They also lost Kasper Schmeichel. That is a big one there. Charles, someone said, so I've read the 50 mil bid for Madison fell through. So it hasn't fell through just yet. Brendan Rodgers is really trying to hold out on it, though. He really does not want to give up Madison, and for obvious reasons. Fantastic player, phenomenal player there, Madison. Has really helped them through some really good times in the last few years, and losing him would be... If they lost Madison, I could easily see them down at that avoid the drop area No, they wouldn't put them in relegation, but I could see them down in the avoid the drop area. Again, it's not letting me move it. I don't know why it's taking so long. But for me, they've still got Madison, so I'm happy to leave them in the mid-table. Alrighty. Next up here, let's move to Leeds United with Jesse Marsch. They had a lot of injuries last year, but they saved themselves by the inches of inches. They were so close to being relegated. Obviously, came down to the final day there. Like I said, last season was one of the best Premier League seasons I've seen in a very long time. Came down to the final day for top four, for who were the champions, with Gundogan obviously sealing it for Man City. Even though Liverpool didn't actually take the lead until after City took the lead as well. But that's not the point. Then the relegation battle was just absolutely massive with Burnley and Leeds all playing it out. And Leeds were able to save themselves. So they actually had a pretty tough year in regards to injuries last year. Now, they have lost some big players, though, with Rafinha and also Calvin Phillips going. Calvin Phillips also obviously going to Man City and Rafinha going to Barcelona. They're massive losses. Like, they are incredibly massive losses. However, Leeds have spent about roughly £100 million to try and recoup these losses. Do they work out immediately? I'm not too sure. I'm interested to see how Jesse Marsch goes as the manager there. Leeds are a really perplexing team. They can score goals. Obviously, Brentford was injured for all of last season. Does he come back from his injury as well as he was previously? They're going to have to rely on him for some goals, obviously. Like I said, they've signed a lot of players with that 100 million price tag, price tag overall. Do they all gel quickly enough? Do I have anything else here? They are pretty terrible defensively. They have improved on the defense slightly, but I don't know about them. I really don't. I'm not going to have them in relegation, but I am going to have them avoid the drop. They could actually be in mid-table this year. They could push further up. I think that they're an exciting and bewildering team in 2022-23. I think that there is every possibility they get relegated, but there is also every possibility that they push themselves up into that mid-table area. Bamford fires, and they really get these new young blood coming through a real good go. So look, I'm excited to see what Leeds do this year. Be very, very careful about predicting them higher, though. Be careful about predicting them higher. I've got them down around that relegation battle, but I don't have them to actually miss it out. So that's what we see. What you guys have to say. Sergeant Cullen says, in my opinion, Leeds are getting relegated. They've lost arguably their two best players in Rafinha and Phillips, and in my opinion, don't have the players there to stay up. It's a good point. It is a good point. I just think that there are worse off teams than them. I think that they have not improved at all. I think they have gone backwards. Yes, they've made signings. Do they work out? We've seen with Tottenham in the past when they lost Gareth Bale. They had £100 million to spend, and they spent it on absolutely nothing. You know what I'm saying? People don't really understand and respect the fact that money doesn't necessarily buy you success. You still have to have the right people in place to buy the right players for you to gain that success and for you to garner the success that, say, Man City have done, Liverpool have done, Chelsea have done, but specifically Man City. Obviously they came into a nice little fortune back in 2008 and were able to spend poorly at first, but then really were able to transition. In 2009, 2010 specifically, and that was obviously the year before Yaya Toure scored the winning goal there against Stoke in the FA Cup, and then that's obviously rolled on now for City to continue. So look, with Leeds spending $100 million, it just reminds me of that Tottenham fiasco with Gareth Bale back in the day. I'm just interested to see where they go. I think they'll be better than a couple of these teams down below them. You're going to be very, very, I guarantee you guys, you're going to be very, very surprised with who I have in 17th. But I could easily put the team that I'm talking about here above Leeds and Leeds into that relegation zone. I could see it, but I'm happy to put them in avoid the drop for now. Anything else? Not at the moment. Alrighty, let's get on to Bournemouth now. Now, I actually love Bournemouth. Scotty Parker there as the manager. I don't think they're going to have a fantastic season, let's be honest with you. I like Bournemouth because actually when I was growing up, they were always my team that I played with on FIFA to go from the lower team up to the top teams. Bournemouth are going to struggle this year. They are really going to struggle, obviously. They've had experience in the past with the Premier League. Still could be able to save themselves, I guess, like a Leeds in that sense. But what I've got here is that they've made no signings. Like they had free I think they spent like 2 free transfers or something. Nothing special at all. I really worry for Bournemouth. If you don't spend in the Premier League, you are going down. And that's what I guess brings me to the belief that Leeds stay up because they have spent Does it work out necessarily first off? I don't believe so. But they have spent a lot of money to try and save themselves in the league. Bournemouth have spent nothing. They've spent absolutely nothing. There's nothing there. It's got Yo-Yo Club written all over it. Bournemouth has Yo-Yo Club written all of it. Up we go, down we go. Up we go, down we go. They are, I guess, the Man City of the 1990s. The Newcastle of, there's been other teams other than Newcastle. Newcastle in the late 2000s to early 2010s, they were very yo-yo-y. And Leeds definitely, not Leeds, sorry, Bournemouth is definitely that team right now where I just can see them going up and down, because they're too good for the Championship. But I don't think they're doing enough in regards to the Premier League, especially, they've got a really tough trip. Well, they stay at home, but they've got a really tough game against Man City, in game week 2. I'm not too sure who they play game week 1, but I'm going to have them in the relegation zone. It'll move there in a second. I'm going to have them in the relegation zone. I can't see too many benefits about Bournemouth this year. I think they've got a great player, a manager who was a great player, but I don't necessarily believe in him as a manager, and I think that they'll get called out quite a bit this year. What do you guys have to say? No one's talking about Bournemouth. They're talking about, guys, I'm not talking about Chelsea or Liverpool or whatnot yet. We'll get to them soon, so we'll talk about that in a moment. But for the time being, obviously, let's try and keep it to the teams that we're speaking about in regards to each one that we do go through. But yeah, for me, I got Bournemouth in the relegation zone, and I don't like to see it. I like Bournemouth. I do. I like Bournemouth. Alrighty, next up here, Erik ten Hag with Man United. This is a very, very intriguing one, this one. Obviously, they're under a new manager now. They've had so many managers in the last 10 years since Alex Ferguson. It's so difficult to read this club. They've got good players there. I'm really liking, for my fantasy team this year, guys, and you'll see this in my fantasy Premier League video that comes out in the next couple of days. I'm really liking Rashford. I really do think Marcus Rashford's going to actually shine under this new system here with Man United. I think that Ten Hag is someone that I believe United can believe in. I think that he's a guy that does care a lot more than previous managers who were always looking just to kind of get by, is what I would say. I don't think that Man United's going to win the league by any means. Let's be honest here. I don't think they're going to win the league. I think that there's still too much quality above them for the Champions League, but they will be competing for the Europa League. I do really believe Rashford's got a big year, but my biggest concern as well comes from the Ronaldo situation. I think with Ronaldo, it's like he's obviously a club legend. You don't want to treat him incorrectly. You don't want to leave on a sour taste, like a bad note. But man, I tell you what, it's starting to get a bit rough there for Ronaldo, in the sense that he wants out. We all know he wants out. They're obviously not in the Champions League this year. He wants to play Champions League football. He doesn't have many years left in him. No one really wants him for the price tag that he's on. Age you play, can still score goals. Does he do it again for United? Because he's probably going to stay there at this point, I would say. Does he still get the job done? Absolutely. I think that Ronaldo still bangs in some goals here and there. But it really does come down to it being a very specific one-player team. I think that United actually will benefit once Ronaldo does leave United. I really do. I think that once Ronaldo is gone, I think they'll be a better club than where they're at right now. But for the time being, I still think they've got a pretty decent midfield. Like I said, I'm really backing in Rashford to have a pretty decent season. Their defence is always a worry at Man United. Their defence is always a worry. But yeah, really, it's going to be very interesting to see, because a lot of people do have United higher up on the table because of their history, and they don't really recognise that they're not the team that they used to be. They are still a solid team. They're still not going to be relegated by any means. They're more than likely going to finish above the mid-table, but they also have every right they could still finish in mid-table. This is a new manager. They've got new players there. They've still got this Ronaldo situation happening. It's going to be really, really intriguing. So I'm looking actually forward to seeing what United do this year. Obviously, you guys know I'm not a big fan of United at all, but I do think that I've got them better than a lot of people actually do. I don't think they've got top 4 in them. I don't. I think that the lowest they should be thinking to achieve is 6th. And I think the highest they should be achieving, obviously, they could put themselves in the top 4. But I think that it's between 5th and 6th for me. And you'll see that obviously on here, between 5th and 6th for me in regards to United. Sachin Kelson says, I'm thinking 6th for Man U. I just have a feeling that Spurs, Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool and Man City will outclass them, and United won't be able to catch up. That's what I'm saying. I've got them around that 5th, 6th marker. And 6th definitely wouldn't surprise me at all. I think 6th is probably where I'm going to have them. I could actually have them in 5th. It's a spicy one there. It's a spicy one. Nabtab says United in 8th. That's low. So who would you have above them? Obviously, you'd have City, you'd have Chelsea, you'd have Arsenal, you'd have Liverpool, you'd have Tottenham. Oh, geez, who else do you have above them? Maybe you probably put maybe West Ham and Newcastle. That's probably it, really, because I'm sure you're not putting Everton up there. We'll get to them in a second. That's a really intriguing one. I think 8's too low. I think 8's too low. They've still got the success. They've still got the history. They've still got the atmosphere of stadium. Atmosphere in the Premier League is a massive, massive impact. And I know that obviously everyone has to travel up from London to go to the United home games or from China. But it is what it is. You know, they've got a good atmosphere there at Old Trafford, and they still should be able to pick themselves up over 8th, in my personal opinion. I just really, for me, in regards to my fantasy, I'm backing in Rashford. So I've got him in my team, and I'm really looking forward to what he has to offer this year, because he's had a pretty good pre-season. United have been a bit shaky in the pre-season, especially when they conceded a goal to Melbourne victory in the first few minutes of their game. But yeah, look, I've got them in that 5th, 6th area. I don't think there's too much to ask there. Could I argue Crystal Palace is what to go above them? Wow, that'd be a high placing for Crystal Palace there. That'd be a high placing. But alrighty, let's move on now to the... This is a big call here, because obviously this is really going to come down to two teams who are the champions, and that's between Liverpool and Manchester City. Now, what I've written down here with Jurgen Klopp's team is Darwin Núñez will fit in seamlessly. I think that Liverpool really have made a great signing there. There is a weak part of their team, though, for me this year. I think that... Look, I'm going to put them here, and look, you guys probably were assuming I was going to put this anyway. I'm going to put them in second place. I think they will be second. I don't think anyone beats out first or second here for Man City or Liverpool. I'm going to put them at the top in second because, firstly, City have won 4 of the last 5 Premier League titles. The only time they didn't win was actually when Liverpool won it, first time a couple of years back. I think that Liverpool are a phenomenal team. Losing Sadio Mane is a big loss, though. I think that, yes, they've obviously got Núñez. Yes, they've made improvements, but also, the thing that I want to kind of point out here is their midfield's kind of aging a little bit. Their midfield, Henderson, Milner, Liverpool's midfield is not exactly where it was at its peak. I'm really, I guess, disappointed that they haven't really ultimately looked at that section of the field. Obviously, they've still got a phenomenal defense. I'm going actually with Alisson this year. Well, to start off with here in my fantasy, I think that Liverpool definitely have some good clean sheets in them, and they play Fulham straight away, so they'll probably get off to a good start there. I've got Trent Alexander-Arnold in my team as well. And obviously, Mohamed Salah's still going to score some goals, and Núñez is going to take some off him as well, going to get some himself. Their attack is phenomenal. Their defense is phenomenal. But the midfield for me might be a bit lackluster this year comparatively to previous years, and that might be where the transition from defense to attack, which is what they're so good at and seamless at, with their just transition, bang, up and score a goal. It's wild, the pace that this team does have. Obviously, they won the Community Shield over City. City are infamous for starting the season off slow. Infamous. Last year they did the same thing. I remember losing 1-0 to Tottenham in the first day of the season, and everyone thought the City were done, and then they really started to pick it up a little bit later, and then it's once City are in front, very difficult to catch them. Very difficult to catch them, and I think this could be a similar thing this year. I think Liverpool might get their hopes up. I think the first couple of weeks they might top the table, but then you'll start to see City really get that chug going, and that's what will push them above Liverpool. But I could easily see Liverpool winning as well. This is the thing with these two guys. It's 50-50. So if City do win, they win 3 in a row, which is the first time since United. The only team that ever has done that is United back in the 2000s. It would be very impressive for City to do it. I believe they do. I think their team is just incredible. But we'll talk about Man City in a second. I've got Liverpool in second. What are you guys thinking? Charles Racker says, United fan here, but Luis Diaz is a gun player. So it's going to be close. Absolutely, Jake Willett. It's going to be very, very close to the top. Absolutely, very, very close to the top. No offense, Sterling. I can't stand his diving. Yep, not Liverpool. Again, guys, not Liverpool. We'll talk about City and Chelsea in a few moments. But Sterling's a fantastic player. It's a ridiculous comment to make, Medvedev. So yeah, look, we'll move on. We'll move on from Liverpool and we'll go to the next team, which is Fulham. But it's going to literally come down to those two. And at the end of the season, if we look back and it's Liverpool winning and City coming second, or City winning and Liverpool coming second, I'm not too unhappy with kind of where they are. But I do have a team that could actually sneak into... I don't think they sneak in the top 2, but I do have a team that's close enough, if good enough. They're close enough, if good enough. They've got a good enough team to push Liverpool and City. I just think that the consistency might not be there. I think you guys probably are thinking who I'm thinking of. But guys, obviously hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you are new around here. We're going to be smashing out Premier League content this year. We've got the Fantasy Premier League video that I'm going to be bringing out very soon. We're going to be doing the streams as per usual, live streaming our reaction with you guys. We've got Premier League punishments that if you are an OG viewer, we'll bring them back for the Saturday night games, Saturday midday games for you guys over there in England. But yeah, look, I'm excited for the Premier League content to come. So hit that subscribe button. Alrighty, next up here, we've got Fulham. Now, Marco Silva, this is a really kind of frustrating one here. I'm actually kind of confused about where I'm going to put Fulham because they're going to get battered defensively. They're going to get smacked. They're going to get really, truly battered with goals. I really think that their defense is a bit of a shambles. I think that they've got to start playing Mitrovic, but they need a little bit more. I think they're a little bit more rounded than they have been previously. They do have that Premier League experience from a few years back. But I think this is going to be a bit of a... They were good last year. They were quality in the Championship. But the Championship is a different breed. It's very attacking. Who cares about defense? Because we're going to score goals. That's the Championship. You know, that's why it's exciting. More goals, less defense, high-scoring games. I think when it comes to Fulham, the big teams are going to pick them apart. You know, you're going to see big teams slaughter them. And you're going to see that game week 1 this weekend when Liverpool take on Fulham in the first game of the season. I think they're going to get relegated. I do. I'm going to put them actually even... You know what? I'm going to put them above Bournemouth, though. I'm going to put them above Bournemouth. I think I've probably got Bournemouth coming last this year. I've got Bournemouth coming in 20th. I've got Fulham coming in 19th. I think that they'll still have enough in them to score a few goals. Like I said, I just think that they're going to get absolutely smacked defensively. And I really am a bit nervous for their standing in regards to the goal difference because I just don't believe in their defense at all. But we'll see how that one goes. Trix Agar says Fulham relegated. Charles Recker says Fulham will be fighting relegation, in my opinion. Yep. Some guys said I think Liverpool will just win. Fair enough. But yeah, look, I think that everyone's really kind of come to that similar conclusion around Fulham that they are a fun team, I guess, but they're not exactly that fun. A lot of Australians like them because of Marky Schwarzer. But overall, we'll probably see them dropping down at the end of the season. Alrighty, next up here, let's move on to a very exciting team under Eddie Howe for Newcastle United, one of the wealthiest, if not the wealthiest club in the world right now. Let's see if they can do what Man City and Chelsea have done. Let's see if they can actually utilise their finances in the right way to put themselves into contention in future years. Money doesn't guarantee it. Look at PSG, look at AS Monaco. You know, I'm just telling you, be very careful thinking the teams are automatically going to be successful just because they get their finances in line and get taken over. But with Newcastle, you know, it's not the end of the window. They've got a lot of signs they could still make. I think they really are still tinkering. They really are still trying to find that right product, and they could do it. They really could put themselves up into a high position here alongside United. They could finish above United. They could finish below United. The two Uniteds there battling it out. I wouldn't be surprised if Newcastle actually finish into that Europa League spot. But I'm loving St. Maximin this year in the new setup. I'm really thinking that St. Maximin is going to really benefit. He's going to score some goals and get some assists as well. I love the way that he plays, and I really like the way that Newcastle are very enjoyable to watch. I love St. James Park. The atmosphere there is absolutely phenomenal. Can't wait to get there myself. I really am looking forward. I've got St. Maximin in my fantasy team. I'm really looking forward to what Newcastle have to offer this season. Their defence is improved. Their attack is exciting potential. Obviously, when you say exciting potential, it means that it can fail, and it absolutely can fail. But I'm going to put them. I'm going to put them here. I'm going to put them below United in the Europa League challenging spot. So you're going to be able to see who I've got in the position, but I think they're a better than mid-table team this year, Newcastle. I think they are going to compete for the Europa League, but I still think that the clubs above them are going to be too good for them. I still think the clubs above them are going to be able to beat them out to positioning of getting into those European spots. I still think Newcastle a little bit early. They could struggle early days. They could also finish in that just where that mid-table section is. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to what Newcastle can bring this year, and I've put a lot of chips into St. Maximin there for Newcastle. Their defence as well, but a lot of people are picking them up for fantasy. Newcastle's defence, and at St. James Park is going to be really something to behold. So yeah, really looking forward to what Newcastle could potentially offer this year. Evan Adante says they could finish higher than United, in my opinion. I agree, as well just said. I believe that Newcastle could also finish above Man United there in the Europa League, fighting spots. Be interesting to see if they make Europa League. Obviously, we saw them. I don't know if they made. I think they did make Europa League back in 2012-13, because 2011-12 was the year Man City obviously outdid United on the final day with Sergio Aguero. I think that was the same year that Newcastle may have come 5th, or because Arsenal might have just locked up their infamous 4th spot. On the final day, I think Newcastle came 5th. That was a very good year for Newcastle. I'm pretty certain they got the Europa League that year. Well, they could have finished 6th, I'm not too sure. And then obviously kind of capitulated after that because they didn't have the depth. But now they've got the money to create that depth. Now they've got the money to really fund into the club. Now they've got some real excitement behind this team. And the new owners it's going to be interesting to see if people start to hate Newcastle eventually, because they're going to do the exact same thing as Man City and Chelsea. Let's just see if they can obviously do the same thing and become successful from it. Newcastle's 6th, Man United 7th for me, Sebastian says. Potential, man. Like I said, you can really interchange these. Whenever you've got these teams in these areas, you can kind of interchange them. You know, I'm happy to interchange Leicester with Brighton. I'm happy to interchange Newcastle with Man United. I'm happy to put Liverpool and City in those two areas there and switch them around. And Fulham and Bournemouth and whatnot. I'm very happy for them to get switched around too. But this is my obviously in point ladder predictions. Alrighty, next up here, let's move on to Brentford under Thomas Frank. Very solid manager. Thomas Frank, very solid manager. Need to find an Eriksen replacement, though. They've obviously lost Christian Eriksen, who might actually help United quite a bit there as well, mind you. He is just a tactical wizard, that guy. That's a big loss there to Brentford. They've got a very good back four. Brentford are a solid defensive team, very strengthy. Obviously, in previous years, we've seen them actually surprise quite a bit. They are here now. They were very good in the Championship before they didn't even get up. They lost 2-0, I think, on the playoff a couple of years back, and when they got up, they impressed everyone. A lot of people thought they would go down, stayed up, and they're still here. So exciting for them. Look, they're no world beaters. Let's be honest with you, they're no world beaters, but they're going to be safe. I'm going to have Brentford. I am going to have Brentford. I'm going to have Brentford. Oh, I could see Leeds finishing above them, but also I could see... Oh, you know what? I'm actually going to put them here. I'm going to put them below Leeds in the avoid the drop section, because I think that Eriksen is going to be a big loss for them. I really do. I think that Eriksen is going to be a big loss, and it's it's interesting to see what happens with Brentford in regards to their creativity, because he really did help them significantly last year. I think Eriksen was a massive, massive play for them, and that's obviously why it's moved on bigger and better things as well. I have not got in the relegation zone, and I feel like Leeds are more likely to drop than Brentford, but I think that Brentford will just stay up, and I feel like there's more potential with Leeds and the signings they've made in regards to their youth, and Brentford coming back, that maybe you still might see Brentford finish below Leeds. But it's a very intriguing prospect there with Brentford, because they're going to have to really replace Christian Eriksen with somebody who can have that tactical creativity, knowledge that that takes that team to that next step. And I'm looking forward to what Brentford can do in regards to staying safe. I don't think that they're bad enough to be relegated, though. I do think they're better than the teams below them, and like I said, I think they still could finish above Leeds, but I'm more backing on the potential of what Leeds have got, which is why I've got them above Brentford. Charles Racker says Brentford will suffer the second season syndrome, in my opinion. There is that option. That's why I've got them down there, in my opinion, but I do think they're still pretty solid at the back, man. Jake Willis says Brentford could do a Sheffield. I'm afraid for them. There's absolutely that option. There is absolutely that option. Look, I'll leave them there. I've got another team that you guys are going to be very, very surprised with, that are going to be in the relegation zone as 18th. 18th, 17th and 16th is always the most difficult predictions to make in regards to the Premier League. Yes, obviously you've got the Liverpool and City factor, but 18th, 17th, 16th means that these teams are going to struggle, and you are going to be amazed at who I actually have down there in that last relegation spot. You will be amazed. I know you probably think it's somebody that you know. It isn't. It isn't somebody that you'd be thinking. They finished mid-table last season. Alrighty, well, next up here, guys, let's move on to Patrick Vieira's Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace, I always like this team. Very, very structurally sound. Nearly impossible to beat at home. They're a very, very great defensive outfit at home. And I I actually am kind of excited for what Palace have to offer this year. They've got some nice little youngsters coming through in the strikers department. They do still technically have Benteke. Their defense is phenomenal. Their midfield is solid. I really don't mind Palace this year. I think they're in for a pretty decent year. They've improved defensively. I believe in Patrick Vieira. I believe in him. Obviously, he has come through the Man City ranks, and I'm going to put them above Brighton here at the top end of the mid-table area. I really do believe in what Palace can offer this year. I think that it's great to see that they've made improvements in regards to their offense, because that's where they usually are lacking. The offense is usually where they're lacking for this team. They don't really usually have, like, they've got Zaha, they're still Edouard, they've got some really good guys coming through, and obviously Zaha provides a lot of experience. We obviously have seen him at United over the years, and he has been a really staple point of Crystal Palace's team for, arguably a decade. He's a great nifty little player there who really suits this team. And look, I'm excited for what Crystal Palace can offer this year. I think they're a very structurally sound team that definitely could finish. I don't think they can finish in that Europa League area, but I definitely could see them in the top half finish. I could see them in a 9-10, maybe not 11. I think 9-10 is probably where I'm going to put them overall here. But no, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what Crystal Palace can do. Sebastian says, Palace in the mid-table section, above Brighton and Leicester for me. Yeah, there you go. Charles Rocker says, I have Palace above Brighton. It's good that we've all kind of got an agreement here before I even look down to see what you guys are saying in the chat. It's good to see that you guys are kind of on the same wavelength about where I am. So it kind of keeps me in check to make sure that I'm not completely all over it. But no, I think that, yeah, I'm looking forward to what Palace can bring this year. Alrighty, let's move on to Thomas Tuchel and the Chelsea. This is a very, very tough one to predict because I could easily see them top four, but I could easily see them in fifth. I could easily see them in fifth because we have seen the improvement of Arsenal. Obviously, Tottenham are there, and we've already got to lock in that Liverpool and City. So our Chelsea is banging guaranteed for Champions League, as most people would imagine. Sterling and Koulibaly are big signings. I actually think that Sterling is the best signing there. A lot of people are saying Koulibaly really certain their defense. Their defense was actually quite solid. They started to lose it halfway to the end of last season, which is what won them the Champions League a couple of years back, obviously, against City. Their defense is solid. And I believe that Tuchel can kind of remaster and retinker to get them back into the right wavelength there. I think that I'm going to put them... Oh, man, it's really, really tough for me. It's really, really tough because there is a team that it's so hard to predict with them this year. I do think, however, that with Chelsea, and this might be the telling point here, I do think that they might be a bit of an aging squad. I think that a lot of their players are getting older. I think that, oh man, it's a tough one here. It's a tough one. What else do I have written down here? No real key goal scorer. I think Sterling's going to improve them in regards to goals. I think that Sterling is a great playmaker there for that team. And obviously he comes from City where he's just absolutely killed it. Obviously, there's been moments. Don't talk to me about Olympic Lyon. But Sterling was an incredible part of the City chugging train, is what I'll say. I am going to make a big call here. And I'm going to put them in fifth. And a lot of people are going to put them in top four. I know you are. And I think you know who I'm probably going to be putting in top four now based on the fact that I've put Chelsea. No, not sixth. Not below United. I think you know who's probably going to go above them now. But yeah, I just think that with the aging squad, with the fact that there's no key striker there for me. When you've got Harry Kane at Tottenham, you've got Erling Haaland at City, you've got guys like Salah and Nunez at Liverpool, and they're just going to really attacking team as it is. I think that Chelsea may struggle in regards to competing with the top teams for goals. I think they're still going to kill those lower teams. I still think they're going to be in the top area, but I think that there might be two teams that will finish above them, and I know Chelsea fans probably aren't going to like where I've got them here. But I could see them finishing in this fifth area. I don't see them finishing below United or Newcastle, but I definitely can see them between third, fourth, and fifth. Third, fourth, and fifth are very interchangeable for me this season. Jake Wallace says, Chelsea's the first team you think of when you think of defence in the Premier League. They almost every season have a good defence. Yes, for the most part of last season, for the first half, and also 2020. Yeah, 2020. But they started to lose a little bit. They did. And that's why they fell off in the title race. I remember I got a Chelsea friend of mine who continuously said to me, well, he continuously said that he was a challenger, and I kept saying to him, be careful, because I think City and Liverpool will pull away from you, and I think that Chelsea will compete, and they will get that third spot, but I think that they're going to really struggle to maintain the consistency with Liverpool and City for 38 Premier League games. And I think that's going to be a very similar thing this year, but I think there's been other two teams that have really improved themselves to put themselves above them, and I think that Koulibaly, massive signing there, but I still want a bit more. I still want a bit more, especially on the goal-scoring front. As at 25, so I know you want to put United in relegation. Of course I want to put Man United in relegation, but I'm also not a muppet. Probably because they have like 8 defenders. Jake Wallace says, yeah, I know what you're saying. Forest top 4, that's the only good team left. My goodness me. Waz's Fatal says, their fullbacks have been shocking last 2 years until Reece James stepped up. They are a good defensive team. We can't pretend like they're not, my guy. We can't pretend like they're not. Reece James and Ben Chilwell are great defensive players there. They, in 2020, it was 2020, they had a great defense. When Tuchel came in, that's when they won the Champions League, my guys. So maybe before Tuchel came in, you might be right. But in regards to halfway through 2020, on the way for when Tuchel came in, and then they won the Champions League against Man City there in the final. Obviously held Man City scoreless. It was 1-0. They were pretty good for the most part last year. But it's just they started to fall apart a little bit later on, which is what I predicted. But yeah, I've got Chelsea in 5th. I could see them in 4th. I could see them in 3rd. Could be a good battle there between 3rd, 4th, and 5th. But maybe that 3rd position might actually try and put themselves a bit higher. Alrighty, let's move on here to Southampton with Ralph Hasenhüttl as the manager. Southampton have really gone backwards the last couple of years, haven't they? They've really actually become quite poor for me. They're far from the team of recent years. They've got very, very young signings, so it comes down to will they gel. They're not the most dynamic team. They're not the best defensive team. They're not the best attacking team. Their midfield's okay. I think they're okay rounded. I don't think they're great rounded, and I don't think they're bad rounded. But I do think that... Oh, man. See, that team that I was telling you about that I want to relegate, well, I don't want to. I actually don't like them as a team. I still think there's worse off teams than them. So I can't necessarily make that huge call like I want to, because... You know what? I'm going to do it. I'm actually going to leave the team. I'm not going to make a last-minute change here. I'm going to leave the team because I do think that Leeds, Brentford, and Fulham, Bournemouth, and Southampton could all finish below this team. But I'm going out on a limb here, which what I'm going to talk about in a moment. I'm going to go out on a limb in a moment. But for the time being, I'm going to put Southampton here, below Brentford. I think if there's anyone likely to take this spot in 18th over the team that I'm talking about in a few moments, it's going to be Southampton, because I really do think they're lacking in direction compared to where they previously were at. I think they are going to struggle for the most part of this year. They're going to be peppered with goals, very similar to Fulham in a sense, and it's going to be difficult to see them staying up. But I'm going out on a limb to say this other team finishes below them. Southampton going down for me. Ward-Prowse needs to leave. And Luke says mid-table Southampton. Big call mid-table. You've got them around Crystal Palace, Brighton, and Leicester. I think you're still looking back a few years ago, and I think this is the problem similar to what we saw with Man United before. I was saying that Man United still have that kind of belief from previously that they're still a big club, and they're a big club historically speaking and trophy speaking, but they're not really a big club when it comes to, I guess, the competitive nature of the league anymore. And I think with Southampton, they're on the opposite side of the system, where you still believe they're a mid-table team. You still think they're a young, fresh team with a really great academy. There's also some other great academies now that have really overtaken them. They're not the same team they once were. Ward-Prowse, fantastic, but they're definitely not in the situation that they have been previously, is what I would say there. Sebastian says, Southampton avoid the drop above Leeds. I'm going to leave them down here. I'm going to leave them below Brentford and Leeds, but... If you're surprised with that one there, you wait until you see who I've got in the relegation zone. Alrighty, let's move on here to Arsenal. Sebastian Gomez, Arsenal there, guys. They've actually had a pretty good off-season. Mikel Arteta as their manager. What confused me with Mikel Arteta is that he's very good on the creativity, not so much the structure. That's what lacks really for Arsenal for me. I think that he's improved that a little bit. I think he has improved, and I think he is going forward with Arsenal rather than backwards. I think that this is going to be a really crucial year for Arsenal under Mikel Arteta. They have signed Gabriel Jesus That's a great pick up there. You know, a lot of their team has decided they really do want to stay here, so they want to play for the club. You only want to play. You want players who want to play for the club, guys. You don't want players who are there just for, I guess, a payday, right? Which is what we see a lot of other sports, and also what we see with a lot of those mid-table teams as well, who just don't really care. They're just there for a payday. I think, and you know, the good thing with City is that they've never really had this problem now. You know, those guys, they do actually care. And not every team can do that. Liverpool's the exact same, but that's because they're so quality. Arsenal, very difficult to lure players in right now because of how much they've struggled for effectively 20 years, well, 15 years, well, let's go. They have really struggled overall with, you know, being happy with fourth place, an FA Cup here or there. Yeah, they're a weird team, but this year they have improved, man. I'm really looking forward to what they've got. I do want better depth, and they do lack a bit of height up front is what my problem is. I think Gabriel Jesus is quite small, obviously. He at City playing false nine. Arsenal, we're going to want to put crosses in for me. I think that Arsenal do play some beautiful football, though. They've always played some beautiful football. I'm going to put them in the top four. I'm going to put them in the top four because I do believe in what Mikel Arteta can bring. I think he was obviously underneath Pep Guardiola, so we would have learned a lot there. He has that creativity. Maybe the structure is a little bit lacking. Maybe they may have a little bit less depth than what you'd normally like. But I really do think Gabriel Jesus can be on for a good season. And I think that he's going to be able to power them forward with a few goals. That'll really help them out long term to put them into position where they could reach their infamous fourth spot. Because I do have them in fourth. I do have them in fourth, not third. So let's see what you guys are saying. Knowledge from Luke says Arsenal fourth. Sebastian Gomez says Arsenal fourth. As much as I hate it, I think Tottenham finish above us. Trix Agar says only a fool who has money to lose would do that. And the difference between the Titans and Man City is the one is a developing team and one is in their prime. What's going on here? Anu says Man City to him are like the Gold Coast Titans. Regardless of how good they are, he'll tip them every week to win. I know you're a troll for one, but like City have won 4 of the last 5 Premier League titles, champion. So don't forget that, baby. City are one of the best teams in Europe. Haven't been able to lock into that Champions League spot. We'll get to them in a second. But it's very easy to defend your troll because they've won 4 of the last 5 Premier League titles. They've won 6 times in the last 10 years. 6 times in the last 10 years. Right? You go back 2011-12, they won. In 2012-13, United won. 2013-14, City won. 2014-15, Chelsea won. 2016-17, no. How was it? What is it? 2011-12, City. 12-13 was United. 13-14 was City. 2-0 West Ham last day of the season. 14-15 Chelsea. 15-16 Leicester. 16-17 City. 17-18. Jeez, I'm all over the shop. Was that maybe... No, was it maybe Chelsea before? No. And then City again. And then it was Liverpool, City. Anyway, long story short, they've won a lot. So, can't even think of the last 11 years. But overall, they've won a lot. So, neutral shit. But yeah, look, I look forward to what Arsenal can do this year, man. I look forward to what Arsenal can do. Obviously, they'll be top 4 and... I'll be top. Yeah, just hide Anu, by the way, Sebastian. Just hide Anu. Muppet. Obviously a troll, man, because it's very clear that obviously City are the best team in the last 5 years, clearly. And you'd argue even 10 years. But yeah, look, Arsenal top 4. That's a big call because obviously there still can be a lot of tinkering that needs to be done there. I think that there's still a lot that, for me, can go wrong with Arsenal. But overall, they will still be top 4 for me because I think they've got a good enough attack. I think their defence is pretty decent. The creativity from Mikel Arteta will shine through. Alrighty, next up here, guys, let's move on to Man City. And as you guys can already tell, I've got them as the winner of the Champions League for the 3rd time in a row, mind you, for the trolls out there who are more than likely Liverpool fans or United fans. But I've got City to win it again. This team is ridiculous. Their depth is just phenomenal. You know, the weakness is always going to be, for me, the defense, but they've got, you know, Cancelo and Walker, and the back line is just solid now. Edison, great keeper. The midfield, like they lose Sterling, but they've still got Grealish. You know, they've still got Mahrez who can take over as well. They've got, you know, Gundogan who's older but can still be that stable. He won the league last year with 2 goals in the 79th minute or whatnot to take the lead there. Oh man, it really is just wild. And then they've got Erling Haaland who comes in as well. Alvarez, he comes in for City as well. They've just got such a good team, and there's no way they finish anywhere below second. Second is the lowest they can, but it really does come down to City versus Liverpool. It probably does come down to a 2-1, 3-point season. Be amazing if they finish tied, and whoever had the best goal difference, would be amazing just to see, I guess, who's the stronger attacking team. But City have really lacked that striker for a very long time now. They've played false nine for quite a while. You'd argue, 10 years since Dzeko was there. Edin Dzeko, one of my favourite players, Edin Dzeko. They've not really had a big man. And if you guys know my channel from a while back, you know that I've always wanted another Dzeko. I think every City fan, I speak on behalf of every City fan, we loved Dzeko, and the way that he was played under Mancini was fantastic. There were still issues sometimes, slow, blah, 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 but he could get the head onto the ball, and Erling can do this as well. Haaland can do this as well. Very gifted footballer. Obviously, it takes a while, though, for players to understand pep ball, right? It's going to be interesting to see how well he starts the season. I, as a City supporter, am going with Harry Kane to start the season. I think that Harry Kane, in my fantasy Premier League, I'm going with Harry Kane. I think it's a safer bet because I think that with Haaland, he made some great runs. He was in that Community Shield. He made some great runs. The play wasn't set for him just yet. Basically, they're still working their way to having that peak game with Erling Haaland up front. And that's my only worry we see this year, that Liverpool go above them. It just comes down to that Liverpool midfield for me that confuses me in comparison. But Erling did play well. It's just that unfortunately the ball didn't get to him because that was his first game with the club effectively. Yes, pre-season, blah, blah, blah. But that was effectively his first game with the club. So I'm looking forward to what Erling can provide this club. I think we all know how well he can be. He can be one of the top goal scorers. He can be top goal scorer. It just comes down to how long it takes for him to adapt to pep ball. What else have he? Yeah, incredible depth. And what I did say before in that Liverpool section is that they may start slow. They have a tough trip to West Ham in that first week. Bournemouth, they'll win, you'd assume. But they really do have a bit of a tough defensive start to the season. Actually, let's go and have a look here at their tough defensive start to the season, Man City. Because I'm telling you, it's not going to be as easy as you think. So they play West Ham at the Olympic Stadium, which will be a tough one. They play Bournemouth at home at the Etihad. Then they travel to St James Park to take on Newcastle, a newly formed Newcastle that look a lot better than previously. That's going to be really, really interesting. And then they play Crystal Palace. It's not at Selhurst Park, it's at the Etihad, but Crystal Palace are a sneaky, and as we'll get to Aston Villa in a second, Tottenham as well. They'll have Nottingham Forest. They should be able to put 6 past. But overall, they usually start slow. If they don't start slow, catching Man City at any point, very difficult. Very, very difficult, man. So yeah, I've got them in first. What are you guys saying? Trick says Haaland needs to settle fast though. Yeah, but they've still got depth to get through anyway, They haven't really had a pure striker for a very long time, Man City. They haven't had a pure striker since, the days of Dzeko. So, yeah, it's a bit different. It's a very different way they're going to be playing football, which is what we've wanted for quite a long time now, to be fair. Jake Willis says Bernardo Silva will be interesting. He could still go leave our midfield just a tad short. A tad short? Do you know how much depth this midfield has, my guy? Calvin Phillips also included there. From Leeds, bro, this midfield will not be left short at any stage. There's too many players, bro. There is too many players in the midfield. This is the thing with Pep Ball, though. He loves a lottery. So when you're in fantasy, having one of those midfielders can be massive, but he could also slap you hard with playing Mahrez 1 week. He'll score 3 goals, and then he'll come off in the 78th minute. He's had a great game. You've had a great fantasy production. Next week, you're like, oh, yeah, here we go. They're taking on, who's a team? They're taking on Fulham and away, or Fulham at the Etihad. They're going to score some goals here, and then he doesn't play Mahrez. He stays on the bench until the 85th minute when they've already won 4-0, and your fantasy team's screwed. So, and your captain Mahrez thinking, here we go. So you've got to be very careful with your fantasy Premier League players in Man City's team, because he loves to shuffle this team around. He really loves to get some good movement about this team. So do not rely too heavily on the midfield. And that's why I really want to get Grealish in my fantasy here. I've gone Mahrez, but I'm also very hesitant with Mahrez. I actually wanted Grealish more because I believe that Pep likes Grealish more. I think that once Grealish, he's had a whole year now with Pep, he understands that he started to really come out of his shell later on in the year last year. I really did want Grealish to be the guy that I think everyone knows can be an absolutely phenomenal player, but yeah, look, I think that I think that there's too much of a kind of special on that left-hand side. I think Mahrez has got that right side locked up, left-hand side, maybe not so much there in regards to lock-up. Oscar Burke says Aston Villa are smoky for European football. No, Brentford get second season syndrome. They go down, in my opinion. Fair enough, I can see it. Charles Rocker said avoid City players in fantasy. Pep likes to rotate a lot. Not Haaland though. Not Haaland. And I guess if you want a solidified defender, you could actually probably look at Walker. I know that a lot of people are going for Cancelo, obviously. I've got Cancelo on my team, but especially with the Community Shield, Kyle Walker is the guy. But I am going to leave Cancelo in my team, and I've also got Mahrez, and that's it for now. And that's it. I don't have any other midfielders. I don't have Edison, and I don't have Haaland. I've got Harry Kane up front. So that's my opinion on Man City. Alrighty, next up, guys, we've got 6 more here. Aston Villa is the next one we get up to here. But before we do that, obviously hit that thumbs up button, guys. Subscribe if you're new around here. I appreciate you for tuning in as per usual. Obviously, we haven't got the biggest Premier League channel ever. We're mainly a Rugby League channel here, but we are going to be really getting into the Premier League as well. We've got the FIFA World Cup coming up. It's going to be an amazing season. It's going to be an amazing year. And this is another thing you've got to be careful about this year, is that the FIFA World Cup will impact gigantically. It will impact this season gigantically. So be very careful with your predictions and guaranteeing them with your betting, because obviously halfway through the year we're all going to be going off to Qatar. But let's move on now to Aston Villa with Steven Gerrard. He slipped on his ass, he did. But great signings. Coutinho, Carlos, Kamara. They've got some great signings there, Aston Villa. You know, they are looking a lot better than previously. But also, they are Villa, where they could very much disappoint despite having some good signings. Last year they had good signings, but they all disappointed. I saw a lot of people saying they were much higher than they finished, and I think we all knew they were going to finish where they did. Well, a lot of people believed they were going to finish higher, but they just disappointed. I think they have addressed the lack of goals, though, which is what my biggest issue there was with Aston Villa. Concede less goals, score more goals. It's just, I know it's simple, but it is something that I guess Aston Villa really had to figure out last season. They didn't. I think that in the off-season they have really figured that out. I love Coutinho being there. I love Kamara coming there. That's a huge one there. And like I said, Carlos. I wouldn't be surprised if Aston Villa snagged a trophy this season. Obviously not in the Premier League. And this is, I guess, predictions for elsewise, not just the Premier League here. But I would not be surprised if Aston Villa snuck a League Cup or an FA Cup. But the League Cup and FA Cup isn't what it used to be, guys. The League Cup is now normally won by City and Liverpool again. You know, now it's expected that City and Liverpool win at least 2 titles. So the League Cup isn't just a gimme anymore. They're not just playing, you know, under 18s anymore. They're playing effectively their second best team to still win those competitions. But I feel like Aston Villa might have enough to get a cup for the first time in, 50 odd years or something like that? I think 1956 maybe? If I'm not mistaken, it's been a while. It's been a long time since between drinks for the FA Cup anyway. I think that I've got Aston Villa more than likely coming. I'm going to put them below Palace. I'm going to put them below Palace here. And the reason being, I still think that Aston Villa will have a very Aston Villa-y season. I just think, oh no, I'm going to put them here. At least now, if they finish above them, I can say, oh, no, that's where I had them. I think Palace, for me, I still am a bit more excited about than Villa. I think, like I said, they've addressed some issues in their game. They've addressed a lot of positions. But overall, will Steven Gerrard be able to do it? Steven Gerrard obviously has ultimate goals of going to Liverpool. We all know that. It's no secret. He wants to go to Anfield and manage Liverpool in the end. But I think that I just really back in this Palace attack that they've really transformed, and defensively they're going to be very sound. So I've got Aston Villa right now I'd have them in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So they're still top 10 at the moment. They're still top 10. But I think they'll probably finish in 10th or 11th based on what we've got here. That's matches mid-table for Villa. Yep, well, that's what we've got in there, mid-table. Knowledge Felix Man City second, I think. Exemplar. Sebastian Grummer says, I'd chuck Villa between Palace and Brighton. Well, there you go. That's exactly where I put them. That's exactly where I put them. Sebastian, we're on the same wavelength, man. We're on the same wavelength there. Charles Rucker says Villa and Newcastle will be on the same level. I disagree. I think Newcastle have a bit more going for them. They've got a bit more going from the old Newcastle. So I'm going to put them in mid-table below Palace. But I can see what you mean. But I think that still there's nothing that really excites me about Villa. I think that maybe it might change the first couple of weeks, but nothing yet excites me. So I'm happy to put them in the mid-table section. Next up here, let's move on to Stevie Cooper's Nottingham Forest. Really looking forward to seeing these guys back up here in the Premier League. Haven't seen them up here for a while, and my goodness me, they've got a lot of history. They've got a lot of history in Nottingham Forest. I think the atmosphere is really going to help them out this season. I think that Nottingham have a very, very proud support in regards to their history, and I really think it's going to be phenomenal there for Nottingham in regards to the support they're going to receive. I think Stevie Cooper is great. I think he's got a good system, and I think that Nottingham are really going to transition well enough to the Premier League. I don't think they go back down. I don't think they go back down, and I think that they can actually finish higher than a couple of those teams and avoid the drop. They're a very, very intriguing team because they could get peppered, but they also could be quite sound. Like, I'm confused with them, and I'm confused in a good way. I think their attack is going to be pretty decent. I think that I'm going to put them above Brentford. I'm going to put them above Brentford. I'm not going to put them above Leeds, but I'm going to put them above Brentford here and say that they stay up. I think they stay up there, and I think that, yeah, I'm pretty happy with that one. I don't think they're going to be the best team ever. I don't think they're ever going to be the team that scores 1 billion goals or gets an upset over City or Liverpool or anything like that, but I do think they'll be sound for the most part, is what I'll put there. Charles Becker says, Forest just might avoid the drop. Yep, avoid the drop behind Leeds. Bonesy boy, I'm exactly where you are at. Exactly where you are at. Sebastian says, not to want to drop back down. Agreed. I think they'll still find it tough. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it's guaranteed that they avoid the drop there. But I still think that, yeah, they've probably got a bit more about them than you'd imagine. I think they've got a bit more about them than you'd imagine. So I've got Nottingham Forest avoiding the drop. Now, we move on to Bruno Lage's Wolves, Wolverhampton. Whew, you're going to be surprised with this one, baby. Now, like I said, I could have made a last-minute change here. I could have made a last-minute change, and I could have put them above Leeds. I think all 4 of those teams could do that, but I'm going to put a surprise pick in this video. I'm going to put a very surprising pick in this video, and I am actually going to put them in 18th. Now, the reason being is because they are far from the team on the Nuno for me. I think that this team could finish anywhere between 11th and 18th. I think that there is a lot of it's not the same team at all from what we used to see under them. They were a very exciting team, but so structurally compound. They were very exciting under Nuno. They fixed a few issues, but then at the end of last season, we saw them lose 7 games on the trot. They lost 7 straight games to end last season. People aren't talking about this. They're not talking about the fact that they collapsed at the end of last season. They are not the team they once were. I think they're a sneaky relegation shout. I think people still think they're the same team under Nuno. I think Bruno Lage is a pretty decent manager there. I think that maybe, if anything, he's able to bring them up there. They've got no incomers. They've got no signings, really. You know, it's just a bit stale for me at Wolves. And I think this is a huge shock because they should be punching mid-table. You know, they should be, if anything, maybe avoid the drop. And that's what I'm saying. I still think Southampton, Brentford, Nottingham Forest, and Leeds could all finish below them. So at this point, I've got him in the relegation battle because I think that at least provides a bit of a shock for this video. But also, I genuinely believe there's a chance. I think that, yeah, there's still teams down there that will... there's still teams down there that Wolves could definitely finish above. But anywhere from avoid the drop down to relegation is going to be relatively close. So I'm going with a surprise pick there. And I think that realistically, if you look at the end of last season, man, they fell off the wagon. No incomers to save that. No incomers to change that. I think it's going to be a really poor season for Wolves. I do. Both voices, Everton fell off. Sebastian says, for me, Wolverhampton between Brentford and Southampton, Everton 18th. So, between Brentford and Southampton, to avoid the drop. So, at least you're on the same wavelength as me, though. At least you're on a similar wavelength that they are in that potential. They could drop off. They could still fall off there. So, I like that you've at least thought that. Good watch to me, that's a big call. It is a big call. It is a big call, man. Wolves have been good previously. But they still have that similar moniker to when they were a lot better that I just don't think they have anymore. And I don't think they've made improvements that you need to make in the Premier League. You can't go through an off-season and not make any signings of note. You can't go through an off-season and not improve because you will be found out. You will be found out. And I think Wolves, they got found out at the end of last season, and it's going to be very interesting if they can keep themselves up this year. But there are teams above them that also haven't made many signings either. But at least with Southampton, you know, they have... at least with Southampton... You know, they've got very young signings. At least with Brentford, there's real solidity there. At least with Forest, there's still a bit more excitement, and Leeds have a lot of potential. That's why I've got Wolves in the relegation zone. But big call, big call. Happy to go big call. Happy to be proven wrong. Big call. But if it gets right, if I'm proven right, that's a big ups to me if I can call Wolves right, considering they came, I think, 10th or 11th last year. All right, next up, guys, we've got Tottenham. And, not Tottenham, sorry, we've got Everton. Bit different there. Bit different there between Everton and Tottenham. Obviously, Frankie Lampard is the manager there for Everton. Geez, the Toffees have fallen off, man. Wow, last season, it's crazy to think this club could be relegated. Everton don't get relegated. Everton don't get relegated. Like, it's crazy to think they were not that far off from being relegated, and this year might not be that far off from being relegated as well. They actually lost their best player in Richarlison. They've lost Richarlison. Like, Ali's not going to be enough. I don't know. Like, their manager's experience in Frankie Lampard, I think maybe a little bit tad overrated there in regards to the manager. They need to sign. Their front three's average. I get Calvert-Lewin and DCL, but their front three is average. Everton really... I just don't know what's exciting about them this year. Goodison Park is a tough place to go, but last year wasn't crazily tough. I think that's just me coming back to the olden days when Man City could never beat Everton at Goodison Park. And they still struggled at Goodison Park, to be fair. I think that Everton survived, surely. I think this is basically going off the fact, though, that I think this is... It's funny, though, that I'm going to have probably 5 teams and avoid the drop. I will have only 5 teams and avoid the drop, which means that there are 8 teams that could be relegated this year, technically, based on my predictions. I am going to put Everton above Southampton. No, you know what? I'm going to put them above Brentford. I could sneak them above Nottingham, and I think, but the way that it's going is that I could keep sneaking them up there because of their history and because they just don't get relegated. But they are a shout this year. They lost their best player. They need to sign. Their front three is and their manager is just relatively experienced. I know he's a great player in his day for Chelsea, but doesn't mean that you're a great. It doesn't mean that you're a great manager. And I really do doubt Frankie Lampard there at Everton. And I don't know if even know if he lasts the season. If they struggle at the beginning, I don't know if he lasts the season. I'm going to see what you guys have to say. Charles Racker says, Neves needs to move to United if United don't get FTJ. Get watching me now says, for me, Everton will drop or maybe Leeds. Everton's a shout, but I don't think I think they've got enough in the locker to avoid it. Everton relegated if they don't sack Lampard by game week 8. Don't mind the call, don't mind it. Dasmate says, it's been a while since Everton has been relegated. That's if they do. It's been a long time, man. I just don't think it happens. I really don't think it happens. I think they've still got enough in their locker that they could get the job done and save themselves from embarrassment. Because this would still be embarrassing to finish right now, because I'm not going to change this. Obviously, Tottenham and West Ham are not going to finish down there. So right now, I've got them in 20, 19, 18, 17, 16. I've got them in 15th, which is actually okay, considering. But it's not okay. 15th is not okay. They should be a top 7, arguably top 6, but top 7 club. They were top 6 for a very long time. They were always competing. They used to be a very good team, Everton. But, they fell off. Gone to the Timmy Cahill days, eh? AFL 18 stuff for Everton around the 12-15 area. Yeah, well, I've got them in 15th. I don't know if they're on the same level as Leicester right now, but we'll see how they go. There's more excitement about Brighton, Aston Villa, Crystal Palace and Leicester than there is Everton, that's for sure. And Leeds and Nottingham have more potential for me than Everton. I just think there's need to make signings. You need to make signings if you are Everton. Okay, last 2 here, guys. Like I said, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. Do not forget, smack the thumbs up button and subscribe. We're going to be streaming on this weekend. Premier League this weekend, 5 a.m. Australian time. Good time for you guys in England for the Arsenal, I think, Palace game. And then also Saturday night for me, Saturday midday for you guys, and Sunday games. We're going to be smacking it, absolutely smacking it. So hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. But final 2 here. We go to London with Tottenham and Antonio Conte. I think this is pretty obvious where I'm going to put them considering where the table is looking right now. I guess you could be confused where I put them in 3rd or 4th. But I'm actually incredibly excited about Tottenham. I am really, really excited. I actually think that Tottenham have the potential in this team to compete with City and Liverpool. I do. I really think that they've made some good signings. They've kept Kane. They've kept Son. They've signed Richarlison from Everton, which was a massive signing there. They've got a lot more stability now. Like I said, very exciting signings. Their midfield is superb. They're going in the right direction. Their attack is great. Their defense is interesting. Great goalkeeper. I think that where they could come undone is consistency, and they are known as the biggest bottle jobs in the league. We all know that. They had their chance in 2016 and didn't do it. I'm going to put Tottenham into third. I think that they do have the ability, but I don't think that they have the audacity to compete with the top two, is what I would say. I think they have the ability to compete with Liverpool and City this year, but I don't think they have the audacity to go with them long term. I think that when you get through that first quarter of the season, you'll see Tottenham up there. You'll see them going bing. And then maybe in Christmas, we've got Qatar to think about again. Maybe midway through January, you'll still see them competing. But I think you'll see Liverpool will go bang, 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 bang later on. And City, those two will just pull away. And you'll see the difference between the piece together Tottenham outfit that have a lot of quality there, a lot of ability, but just not the legs in them for me. I don't know if they have the legs in them. But I've got them in third. It's a great positioning there for Tottenham. Obviously, they've had some really tough times. They haven't won a trophy in God knows how long. They haven't won the league in about 70-odd years, 60, 70-odd years. I don't think this is their time. I don't believe that they're going to outdo either Liverpool City, but they do have the quality in them to do it for me. Let's see what you guys are saying. Charles Rocco says, Spurs top four. Conte has made some exciting signings. Conte has also got this is his first full-on season here with Tottenham for me as well. I think that he's really going to be able to bring that stability, like I said, the stability with Tottenham that can keep them on that consistent level as a top team, but just not the top team for me. But I think they're going to be a very stable team in comparison. And I'm not a big fan of Tottenham. I'm not really the biggest fan of Tottenham as a club, but I'm excited for them. And I've gone with the 3 Tottenham players in my team. I've gone with Perisic. I've gone with who's another big signing. Perisic. I've got Harry Kane, and I've also got Son. I've got all 3 of them. And I think that I'll probably adapt and bring in Erling Haaland in my fantasy eventually. But I think for the time being, very happy with Harry Kane and Son to start the season. They start off with Southampton as well, which I think that should be a very... I hate that I keep saying I think. It should be a very easy task there for Tottenham to get by, and then you've got City taking on Bournemouth in week 2, so maybe you can take out Harry Kane for Haaland. It just depends on how well he adapts there. So, because I don't think anything more than like a 2-0 for City this weekend, maybe against West Ham. West Ham could make it a 2-2, could be a 1-1. West Ham's still pretty solid defensively, but I still think that City should be able to get the job done there pretty well. I think if you're going City, keep saying I think, if you're into your fantasy, stick with Kane for me. And I'm a City fan, but stick with Kane for me until you get a bit more adaptation with Haaland. But that game week 2 is going to be very juicy. So I've got Tottenham second, Tottenham third. Jake, what it says, Everton have been in the top league of England for longer than Liverpool, United, Tottenham and Chelsea. I know, that's why I've got them there. Hansa says, what's good? Dasmay says, Tottenham should just go straight down to the National League. Sophie Gillen says, these are bottle job Spurs, which they'd get relegated. Don't think that's happening, lads. But the final team, I don't say final opportunity, I don't know what that is. Final team here, I just hit the table and knocked my book over. Final team here is West Ham. West Ham here. And David Moyes. What a team. Very surprising team last year. Very well-rounded for me, is what I'd say. I think that they are a team that you've got to be careful about writing off, but also careful about overrating. They are a team that have a quality bunch of players, very impressive last season, can be defensive but also exciting, and they continue to move up. But I think people have started to overrate them a tad, where there's no guarantee this team is a European contender. This team is more than likely, I've got them above Crystal Palace. I don't know if I have them above... Where I'm going to put them is here. I'm going to put West Ham in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th. And I've got Newcastle above them. They're a sound team. David Moyes is a sound manager. They're a good team, man. It's going to be quality. It's going to be quality for West Ham, but they're not that next level for me. They're not going to take too many teams down above them, but they'll absolutely destroy all the teams below them. So above mid-table, competing for Europa League. All 4 of those teams there are competing for the Europa League and the Conference League and whatnot, but I still think the teams above them will have a bit too much for them. Jake Weller says, going to be the best North London derbies in quite a while. Absolutely. Gamai Mate Mouse says, are you going to stream La Liga? No. Langham Ballsack says, literally forgot those 3 bottom teams for 4 years. Literally forgot those 3 bottom teams for 4 years? Bournemouth, Fulham and Wolves? There's no way that you forgot about Wolves. Last year maybe, but even before that and that, the Wolves have been pretty good there. But, yeah. Hansa says, as a Wolves fan, this hurts to see, but I'm not comfortable at all for this season. I like it. I like that you understand where I'm coming from and you haven't taken offence to it. I like that you've not taken offence to it because I can understand a lot of Wolves fans won't like that. I can. But I'm not too unhappy with these selections here. I really am not. Sebastian Grumman says, West Ham are not European contenders for me, mid-table above Palace. But that's where they are. I've got them in a contending Europa League spot. I do think they have enough in them. I think this will be a bit of a drop-off from last year, tad. But they're still good enough to compete for the Europa League. They are still good enough to compete for the Europa League. For mine, anyway. Hannah says, our owner hasn't done anything. Charles Recker says, West Ham above Palace if Rice doesn't move. Yes. What happened to Norwich City? They got relegated, mate. Of course they did. They didn't. They won like 2 games last year. They were terrible. They were terrible. But yeah, there we go, guys. So in first position, I do have Man City. In second position, I have Liverpool. Interchange those as you please. I'm pretty solid on Tottenham in third, though. I'm not too happy with swapping these guys around with anyone. I'm pretty happy with Tottenham just solidifying themselves in third. Arsenal, Chelsea, 4th and 5th. Pretty happy to switch those guys around. Also add in Man United. I think they've got a bit more going for them in regards to stabilising than Newcastle, so you could maybe shuffle it around. But 4th I've got Arsenal, 5th I've got Chelsea, 6th I've got United, 7th I've got Newcastle, Albion, and then in 8th we've got West Ham there, who will not be as good as they were last season, but will still be really, really sound. Mid-table, you've got 9th position Crystal Palace, which I believe is a great position for them. Happy if you want to argue Aston Villa above them or even Leicester City above them. I think the Palace will have enough to do out over Brighton. But 9th, yeah, I've got Crystal Palace. And 10th, I've got Aston Villa. 11th, Brighton. And Leicester City in 12th. Those are the teams that are all for me. I cannot see them being relegated. I just can't see any of the teams above mid-table being relegated. Then we go to the 8 teams that have a chance of being relegated. The reason why I've got Leeds there is because I think they've got more exciting potential than teams below them. They definitely could get relegated this year. Not the same team in the past. Hung on by the skin of their teeth last season. I think they've got the most potential. Nottingham Forest, they excite me. There is some good positives there. Also could get blasted with goals. So be careful with them, but I'm happy to keep them outside there in 17th, 16th, 15th, 14th, which is a good position, a really good position there for Nottingham for me. In 15th, I've got Everton. Everton, yeah, not the same team they used to be. I think they'll save themselves by the fact that they have the experience to save themselves, haven't been relegated in Yonkers. Yeah, it's tough for them. We could see them lower, but happy to go with their 15th. Brentford and Southampton, pretty similar situation for me. Okay, but not terrible, but not great. Brentford defensively pretty sound. Yeah, I've got them both staying up, but Southampton I could easily see dropping as well. And then relegation, I do have in 18th Wolves. Now, Wolves, as I said, big call, crazy call. Expect people to be a bit confused by it. I just don't think they've done any work. They haven't made any signings. They have not got the same. They're not under Nuno anymore. They're a bit stagnant and stale as a club at the moment. I think that they need to buy. What did I write here again? They 7 losses to end the last season. Last season, they finished off the year with 7 straight losses. They stayed up, but their first half of the season to the midway point was good, and then they went down. So I'm scared for Wolves, but I definitely could also see them above Leeds. So that's why I say keep them all in mind. Fulham in 19th and Bournemouth in 20th. They're going to get peppered with goals. I think that both teams just not good enough, but I think Fulham are a little bit better than Bournemouth. So that's my Premier League predictions there, guys. Let me see if you guys have any complete disagreements here. Desmond says this year, Jake, will Chelsea win? Oh, yeah, good luck. Jake Willis, I wonder what year will be the next one the City or Liverpool don't win. If anything, it truly, Tottenham in the next couple of years could be sound. They just need to not have one of those big bottle job years. Arsenal are on the right track, but City and Liverpool have a especially City. City have bought very well. They've bought very well with Alvarez and Calvin Phillips, and their midfield is just so incredible. 4 of the last 5. It's very tough to see Man City not doing it again. I think if anyone's going to surprise the two, it's going to be Tottenham. But yeah, it's really difficult to see the future of when one of these two teams will not win. Yeah. Excellent. It says Arsenal win this year. They're primed for it. No, here we go. Here we go. Lockie Togo says, do you like Chelsea? Oh, I don't mind Chelsea. They're not my favourite team, but I don't mind Chelsea. There is competitive rivalry there with Chelsea, but I've also grown up with friends who are massive Chelsea fans all my life, so they're, I don't necessarily mind too much, but obviously they're not my most liked team because they're a competitive rivalry there. Tigers fan says, I know nothing about soccer, but Man United, Ronaldo, so. Okay, that was lame. But also football. But, yeah, Ronaldo's not exactly in the good books with United right now. Let's put it that way, dude. But that'll be it for today's video, guys. I hope you have enjoyed. Obviously, like I said, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. We've actually been here for over an hour. I was expecting to be here for maybe 40, but I just love talking Premier League. I just love talking football. It's the beginning of the season in literally 3 days' time. We will be showing the first game of the season. We'll be showing a majority of games this weekend and every weekend. And we've got fantasy Premier League video coming out on Friday with who I am going within my fantasy Premier League team so that you guys can see what my thoughts are. But I appreciate you guys as usual. And tomorrow night we'll be live streaming our reaction to the Roosters versus Broncos in the NRL as well. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Catch you later. See ya.